So ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mary-Louise Ashworth, and I have the wonderful pleasure this evening of being your MC. Now, what began as a simple cafe conversation in early 2023 has grown into this Let's Hear It, a podcast that connects voices and perspectives across topics like women's health, leadership, and STEM. And tonight, the connection comes to life here at BGL, in person, in a very, very special fireside chat with Minister Yuriko Backes. So events like this are only possible thanks to support of sponsors. And we are delighted to be here this evening in this wonderful auditorium, sharing the moment together. Our sincere thanks go to BGL for making this event possible. And without further ado, it is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage the Head of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, Mathieu Violette.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to welcome you here today. So this event, as you know, is a collaboration between BGL BNP Paribas and the Letz podcast. LaTasha Baker and Jazmin Campbell came to us with an idea, a vision, and BGL BNP Paribas is proud to support this event by opening our doors and welcoming you this evening. First, I would like to warmly thank Madam Minister Backes for joining us. Your presence shows a strong commitment to equal opportunities and diversity, and we are honored, extremely honored, to host this conversation with you. Thank you very much. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished ambassadors from Spain, from Romania, Netherlands, and Czech Republic. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Nicolas Auton, BNP Paribas CEO, and Louis Delon, Head of HR, for being with us as well. I would also like to warmly welcome our two interviewers, Jazmin Campbell and LaTasha Baker, and thank them for involving BNP Paribas in this initiative. Through your work and through the Let's Hear It podcast, you encourage important conversation, give visibility to diverse voices, and raise awareness on key social topics. Thank you very much. Once again, we are very happy to support the initiative by opening our doors today. And now, I would like to thank all of you here tonight, listeners, guests, podcasters, colleagues, and partners. Thank you. This audience shows that this conversation matters. At BNP Paribas, if we want to talk a little bit about us, diversity, equity, and inclusions are very important values. We believe that equal opportunities and diversities are not only about fairness, but also about helping companies grow, innovate, and succeed in the long term. This is why we work to create an inclusive environment where anyone can feel respected and have the opportunity to succeed, whatever their background, gender, origin, or personal journey, let's say. We also believe in the importance of dialogue through conversations that bring together voices from government, diplomacy, civil society, and business to speak honestly about where we stand and where we need to go. This is why these evenings, like this one, matter, and in true fireside chat style, we are looking forward to an open and engaging conversation. So tonight, we encourage you to listen with curiosity, to challenge with kindness, and to live with at least one new idea or new perspective. We have an extraordinary guest joining us, and we are much more looking forward to the discussion. Thank you again, Madam Minister Backes. Thank you, ambassadors, and thank you to all of you for being here. Your presence elevates this evening and reinforces what we believe, that the most important conversations happen when diverse voices are in the same room. Thank you. Now, without further ado, I hand over to Marie-Louise, and I wish you an excellent fireside chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mathieu, and your team, and for your welcome to BGL. Now, let's move on to our panelists. Let me start with another question. You're going to love my questions by the end of the evening. Have you ever made a lasting impression on someone without even trying? You know what's coming next, don't you? Because sometimes those are the moments we remember most, and about people. I mentioned earlier that I first met our host through the network. And one particular lady definitely made an impression, unforgettable impression. Back in 2016, I was standing on a stage, giving a speech, and right in front of me, a young lady fainted. Right in front of me. Now, of course, we were all very concerned about this young lady's health, that she was feeling all right. But looking back, it's safe to say she made quite an impression. And here's the thing. Over the past decade, I've had the absolute pleasure of watching her grow into a truly outstanding communicator. Confident, thoughtful, and it's impossible not to listen to her. And you'll hear it instantly in that fantastic Northern Irish accent. She's lived in Paris, Madrid, and has called Luxembourg her home since 2016 and is now a proud Luxembourger. She's multilingual. She's a multilingual media professional with over a decade of experience across journalism, communication, and content strategy. And her background spans languages, literature, history, politics, and her work has covered everything from business to finance to politics and culture. But more than that, she's someone who's a great storyteller and who brings people together through conversations. So please, bring your energy to the room and let's hear it for Jazmin Campbell. She just promised not to faint. As Jazmin brings the voice of storytelling, let me introduce you to the strategic mind and driving force alongside her. As this is someone for me who has been part of my chapters too. She was first my neighbour. She became my friend. Sounding board at the network. And later my colleague. And if you've ever had someone in your corner like this wonderful lady, you'll know how valuable that is. Because she is someone who brings clarity, perspective, and just the right questions, often exactly when you need them most. Professionally, she is an absolute powerhouse in strategic communications. Her career began at the very heart of the US policymaking, where she served as a speechwriter and policy advisor to 2 US senators. An experience that not only shaped her deep understanding of national and global issues, but also her ability to communicate them with clarity, precision, and real impact. Today, she brings the same expertise to advising organizations across both public and private sectors. And here in Luxembourg, she has made a lasting mark as the former communications director of the network. And of course, she is the brilliant co-creator and co-host of this podcast, a platform that continues to amplify the voices and stories of women living, loving, and thriving in Luxembourg. She holds a degree in history, politics, political science, a master's in international relations. But beyond all of that, she is someone who connects people, ideas, conversations, which is exactly what tonight is all about. So please give a huge warm welcome. Let's hear it for LaTasha Baker.
She can fly away. Oh, she got both feet on the ground.
This next introduction is a very special one. I first met our distinguished guest after she became Minister of Finance, when I was introduced to her by the then British Ambassador, Ambassador Thomas. And it is a true pleasure to welcome her tonight. Born in Kobe, Japan, and educated at the London School of Economics, SOAS, the College of Europe, our guest brings a deeply international perspective to her work. She began her career as a diplomat with Luxembourg's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with postings in New York, Brussels, and Japan, before going on to serve as a diplomatic advisor and Sherpa to Prime Minister Claude Juncker and Xavier Bettel, contributing at the highest level of European and international decision-making. She later served as Maréchal de la Cour, a role at the heart of Luxembourg's Grand Ducal Court, reflecting her breadth of experience and trusted leadership. In 2022, she was appointed Minister of Finance, and following the 2023 election, she has now served as Minister of Defence, Minister of Mobility, Public Works, and Minister for Gender Equality and Diversity. And I have to say, the last portfolio really is one in particular that is very close to my heart, and I know resonates strongly with most of us here in the room. Her work in championing women and advancing equality is not only impactful, but deeply relevant to the conversations we are going to have this evening. Minister Backes, you bring together deep policy expertise, a global perspective, and a thoughtful, composed leadership style. Qualities that have shaped a remarkable and fast-rising journey at the highest levels of government. So please, ladies and gentlemen, honoured guests, let's hear it for Minister Yuriko Backes. And now, for the moment, that's all from me. As we now bring together experience, perspective, and the power of conversation, we continue to champion voices, share stories, and build connections. It's time to begin. So please, ladies and gentlemen, honoured guest, I give you the Let's Hear It Fireside Chat.
Thank you, Mary Louise. Thank you so much. Well, Jazmin, it looks like we pulled it off.
It looks like we did, LaTasha, and I didn't faint, so everyone can be relieved that I'm still standing or sitting. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and indeed we did pull it off, but we didn't do it by ourselves. So just give a moment of thanks first and foremost to Severina Loesch, who was our graphic designer. She designed the graphics on our PowerPoint, as well as what you saw on social media, as well as two very talented photographers here, Ali Shahid from The Chronicle and Jerome Neumann from RTL. They both volunteered their time tonight, and I am so appreciative of them being here tonight.
Absolutely, and a huge thank you to our hosts and sponsors, BGL, BNP Paribas. A special thanks, well, to your entire team, but a special thanks to Nicolas Autant, the CEO of BGL, BNP Paribas, to Louis Delot, head of HR, and to Mathieu Violette for your wonderful speech earlier this evening. Thank you for your trust and and for this wonderful venue and evening. Thank you.
Yes. And of course, a special thanks to you, Minister Backes. I'm sure that Celine, when she reached us, she probably was like, there's some American woman with a strange name that wants you to be on her podcast. But
LaTasha is a beautiful name.
well, thank you. Thank you so
Jazmin.
much. Thank you.
And this chair is extremely comfortable, so
Isn't
I think I will not be fainting tonight either.
So
Nobody fainted.
again, yes, we're glad to have you here. This is a uniquely Luxembourg experience. You know, we're both expats. I'm sure so many people in this room are immigrants, expats to Luxembourg. And we started the podcast, as Mary Louise explained, as a way to elevate conversations about critical topics in Luxembourg and hear from voices around Luxembourg. We started it in the studio in Steinsel, which is owned by our amazing producer, Tanzel Gunay. So, and that's another person we want to give a shout out to. He couldn't be here tonight, but very much happy to have him on our side. And these topics, family, life in Luxembourg, finance, and career, are all important to us.
Absolutely. And as you said, LaTasha, well, it started in 2023. We had a brainstorming session in a cafe in Luxembourg City. So I know LaTasha through the network where she was communications director, kind of my boss, and she approached me with this idea for a podcast, and I thought she wanted me to be a guest, and I thought, I don't know what I would talk about, but sure, I can be a guest on your podcast. She said, no, I want you to co-create this podcast with me. And here we are, we're in our 4th season. We have more than 30 episodes, despite both having full-time jobs during that period with some amazing guests. Quite a few of you who are in the audience today, so thank you so much. And we thought it was about time that we had a public conversation with one of Luxembourg's leading voices. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, Minister Yuriko Backes.
So before we begin the conversation, for those of you who are familiar with our format, we usually have a dish around town, hot topics, interview, and then our boss lady segment. So we're departing from that format tonight because we are live. So we're going to start with questions. We will cover questions regarding the minister's career path as well as the different areas of her remit. We will have a brief pause for questions after we cover gender and diversity. And then after the final questions, we will have a live audience Q&A. So if you do have any questions, you can ask them live, or you can also submit them via the QR code on the screen in front of you. Okay.
Absolutely. So time for our interview with our very own boss lady this evening. So let's get started.
Okay, so the first question, of course, is about you, Minister Backes. We want to talk about your career. You have this very international, like Mary Louise, when she talked about your background, it's very international, having been born in Japan, studied abroad, worked for the government in different countries around the world. What stands out most to you in your experiences? What has shaped your career path, specifically within leadership?
Thank you very much, and again, thank you for inviting me to this fantastic set and episode of your podcast, and thank you to the audience for being here tonight and for sharing this moment together with us. Yes, as you said, I grew up also as an expat. You talked about expat community in Luxembourg. Myself, I grew up as an expat in Japan in a very international community. So for me, growing up with people from all different backgrounds, different countries, different cultures, speaking loads of languages. For me, that was normal, and I feel very comfortable in a very diverse environment. Growing up, I was always talking about Luxembourg as I was the only kid from Luxembourg around. So, speaking about my country, feeling proud about my little grand duchy, but being the only one really talking about it, but people always being interested in it. And I think that sort of naturally led me to also aspire to an international career, wanting to join the Luxembourg diplomatic service. You asked about leadership. I think every person has their own leadership style because every person has their character. From my upbringing and really wanting to have an inclusive and also consensual way of deciding, I think that's part of how where my upbringing led me to. I want to hear different points of view. I'm listening to different points of view. Of course, in the end, you have to decide. But for me, it's important to include as many opinions as possible. That's why also diversity in whether it's in my directorates in different ministries or in the private sector, diversity in decision-making bodies for me is extremely important because I'm absolutely convinced that the decisions that come out from surrounding yourself with a more diverse set of people will always be better. And I think that's how I try to set up also the people that run the ministries and administrations that fall under my responsibility, to try to get the best decision making out of it and to put myself in the position to take the best decisions.
Excellent.
Brilliant. So absolutely, we'll delve a bit further into then gender equality, diversity with a finance touch, based on your previous portfolio and also the fact where we are tonight. So at Let's Hear It, we often talk about women navigating careers and leadership in Luxembourg. So we understand the Ministry of Gender Equality and Diversity celebrated not so long ago its 30th anniversary. So what are some of the main achievements in this area over the past 30 years? And, for example, representation of women on boards, and what challenges remain?
How much time do I have? 30 years is a long time, obviously. When the ministry was founded 30 years ago, it was all about equal opportunities. The ministry's name changed a few times along the road as well, from equal opportunities to equality between women and men to today gender equality and diversity, which also includes rights of LGBTIQ plus communities. So really come a long way. You take different aspects of the job. For example, violence. It's still pretty much a taboo. It shouldn't be, because it's also in Luxembourg a reality. So you witnessed evolution from the first law 2002 on domestic violence and everything that has been set up in Luxembourg today to help victims of violence. So much has happened in this area. To today, for example, where we I would say celebrate is the wrong word, because first of all, even you wouldn't want a ministry. In the ideal world, you wouldn't need a ministry for gender equality and diversity. But today we celebrated, and I put it, the 1-year anniversary of the Center for Victims of Violence in Luxembourg. We have never had such a center in Luxembourg. It's a first. where victims of all sorts, all kinds of violence, and there are so many different kinds of violences that exist, from physical, sexual, psychological violence, can get help and don't have to go to 2, 3, 4 different places, be it the police, be it a hospital, as a result of what has happened to you, or to document also your wounds. You will find help in one place, and today is the 1-year anniversary where we have this in place. For me, it's something that hasn't existed in Luxembourg. I'm proud that it exists now, to help everyone who. From young people, we have 15% of people under the age of 18 who seek help there. We have 1/3, 2/3 women who seek help, 1/3 men. So you see, from at the origin being a ministry for women, or perceived as being for women, it's a ministry that is there for all of society, including also men who are victims of violence, and like I said, also including LGBTIQ plus communities. I can talk for hours, I won't. That's just a few words on the violence aspect in our society, and we know how prevalent and prominent it still is today. But for example, also equality, of course, in the workplace, and we are in a prestigious bank here. Also there, a lot of work has been done by the ministry, including the Positive Actions program, where also bigger companies have participated. You have to audit yourself and see how to be able to really see how can a company, be it a bank or otherwise, improve yourself in terms of gender equality. Analyze the recruitment processes that you have, analyze the promotion processes that you have. I think many companies can still question themselves. So as a ministry, we accompany this. But and also there, lots of laws have been put in place on equal pay. We can talk about pay gap in Luxembourg. We can talk about pension pay gap in Luxembourg. All very, very interesting topics. But EU directives that also need to be transposed. We can discuss it later, be it women on board, which also needs to be transposed, has been in Luxembourg, to transparency as far as pay is concerned, which hasn't been transposed in Luxembourg, but we have to do it. This doesn't fall under my responsibility. For the ministry, it's important not only to work with companies, but to work with schools, to work with communes. I must say the Ministry for Gender Equality and Diversity is the smallest ministry in the government, but covering such huge topics that are so immensely important in our society, that our little team of 22, 23 people has done amazing work. There is still so much to do in every domain. We are seeing today pushbacks. We are saying, I mean, you read the news, you see that on the internet you have men exchanging info on how to drug, molest, and rape women, and that's just one of many examples of what is happening today, and where we need to work together as government, be it with the Ministry of Justice, with the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Interior, the police, but together with the stakeholders in society, to do preventive diplomacy, to sensitize people, especially young people, especially also boys, but also girls, where they can seek help if they need help, but how to improve our society, and that takes a whole of society approach, of course, a whole of government approach, but mainly a all of society approach.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes. Well, you mentioned briefly about finance and women, and so Luxembourg does have, they're frequently rated as having high gender, the lowest gender pay gap in Europe. But across the finance sector at the leadership level, there's a lack of diversity. A lot remains to be updated and corrected. So what, with the Women in Finance Charter and the Luxembourg Gender Finance Task Force, which were both created recently in 2023, how do they address this issue, and have you seen any measurable impacts so far?
So when I became Minister for Finance, I very, very quickly invited the most amazing women that we do have in the financial sector in Luxembourg from all levels, from the top levels to middle, to lower management positions. We have amazing women in our financial sector. I got them around the table to also brainstorm what can we do in Luxembourg to improve the situation. So when I was Minister of Finance, we worked on this Women in Finance Charter together with the actors of the financial center to make it open for companies to sign and to commit to greater gender equality and diversity in their companies. A bunch of working groups have also been started on this issue that my successor at the Ministry of Finance, Minister Gilles Roth, has also continued with the collaborators in the ministry to continue to work on. I think there's been a lot of awareness raising on what's at stake, because in the end it's in the interest of the companies, also of the financial sector, to make decision-making diverse. It's not just a matter of justice, or it looks good, also in terms of ESG. No, it will have an impact. Because it will make decisions better, it will be more profitable for companies. So there's the women in finance, and also making it to top positions of leadership, but also there's a finance for women, and I think both sides of the coin are equally important. Like I said, to make a difference, and in the end, it's more profitable for the companies concerned. Also, not to forget, when you do have, and this has been said as well by the president of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, based on studies, when you do have more gender equal leadership, it also has an impact on the carbon footprint of companies. So that's just another angle not to forget, which is also important today.
Okay. All right, great. So now that we've covered the gender equality portion of your remit, we want to open it up for brief Q&A on gender questions. And we had some come through online, but first we'd like to see if there are any questions in the audience.
One over here.
I actually want to know more about the carbon footprint.
Me too. Now, I think these studies are extremely interesting to read, because it seems, as a result of more gender equal leadership, that maybe there's more of awareness on how can a company be more sustainable and perhaps also promote more sustainable products. I can look up the exact studies and maybe provide you with the details to see exactly in terms of numbers what this means. But I find the link just extremely interesting, because like I said, it seems that when you do have more gender balanced decision-making teams, that it does have an impact on the carbon footprint.
Okay. Are there any further questions in the audience?
There will be an opportunity for a Q&A at the end as well. But yes, we'll take a question over here at the front. Thanks, Mary-Louise.
Hi, so you mentioned that your DEI team is very small but mighty. So I come from Amazon, where I'm part of a DEI team. Here in Lux, there's so many companies that do have these teams, and is it possible that some of us could get together to donate ours to help you with some of the DEI initiatives, because it is our corporate responsibility as a solo company, but also to the country?
Well, I think there's only so much that government and ministries can do, and we are trying to do what we can with the resources that are available. But we see from the private sector extremely valuable initiatives for your companies that can also be shared, inspiring more sustainability. IMS is, for example, an initiative where companies do come together to promote more diversity within their companies, to get more actors also on board, for example, to sign the diversity charter. And I'm sure at Amazon you have best practices to share with other actors in Luxembourg, and I'm sure that would be extremely welcome. And perhaps one way to do this is via IMS, yes, making sure that really everybody signs up to the diversity charter. I think it's in the interest of all companies, of our economy, and for sustainable companies and a sustainable economy of Luxembourg.
Okay, great. So Jazmin, do you want to take one of the questions from that have come in online?
So we've received quite a few messages via the QR code as well. We'll address, I think, 2 now, and then the rest will be addressed at the end of the session, let's say in the Q&A session. So let's see. Let's, no pun intended. One is, are there any plans to fully implement joint custody of children in cases of divorce, which is a rare example of reverse discrimination in Luxembourg?
Okay, I think this would be a question really to address to the Minister of Justice, and I don't want to speak in her name. So yeah,
We have more questions. Yeah. So, what does diversity mean for you, as it seems to have taken to take a different shape and form over the last few years? How do we stay with the true meaning of this in our diverse country of Luxembourg?
Well, we see in different countries where the diversity programs to promote diversity within companies are either being cut, and you see that this is also being exported. For me, diversity will always be a strength, something that must be encouraged without necessarily having to go through quotas like we may also encounter, which is a means to an end. But for me, diversity means many things, and not only gender diversity, but of course goes much further than that. Again, bringing in different cultures, different backgrounds, and it's absolutely something to be cultivated in our country, in companies.
Perfect.
Great, thanks. We will continue Q&A after the next round of questions.
Yeah. So we're on to mobility, jumping around a bit because your remit is quite varied. So given the strong increase in passenger numbers at Findel Airport in recent years, how will you ensure that infrastructure remains adequate and resilient in the future?
Resilience is a big, very popular word these days. Indeed, over the past decade, the passenger numbers at Findel Airport has doubled. By 2050, we will be going, according to estimates today, we are just over 5 million passengers a year now, to double that again. So for me, it's important to anticipate this growth and not constantly, we see growth and then we do a bit here, we do a bit there. No, I have presented, and it's the first time that this has been done, a master plan, a document that is not fixed in stone or, has the concrete construction projects all fixed, but with the limited space that we have at the airport, and that is the reality. How do we best allocate the slots for the future growth. But we have allocated also 1 billion in euros to the projects for the next 7 years. Most of it will be done by Lux Airport, responsible for the airport, so this will increase lots of improvements to the airport infrastructure, including a new terminal, including a new baggage collection area, including many improvements, including sitting areas, including toilets, including a new lounge, including new security checks. We want the passenger experience at Luxembourg Airport to be a serene and pleasant one. Airports are places where, a lot of stress can accumulate. We want the experience in Luxembourg to be a pleasant one. That's why the infrastructure really needs to be adapted. And of course, we want to keep the connectivity and increase the connectivity of our airport within Europe and beyond. You mentioned resilience. And we are seeing also now with energy price increases, perhaps future fuel shortages, resilience aspect for me, I would say, as mobility minister, but also as minister for defense, is extremely important. We have a fuel farm that has not is not at the proportion that it should be. So that's one of the first things I did as Minister for Mobility, pass the laws that we can expand our fuel farm, and there we are. This is less for interesting for passengers, but that's you mentioned resilience. It is extremely important for our airport, which is also a NATO airport, and in that sense, we need this resilience. It's extremely important for our economy, because everything around the airport, be it in terms of employment, etc., it contributes an enormous amount to our GDP. 90,000 people working in and around the airport, in the greater region, not only in Luxembourg. So economically, it's important, and I will make sure that in the next years, all that we can do to improve the situation for passengers is going to be done as quickly as possible.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Yes, certainly, especially with layovers in Frankfurt on the way to the U.S. So. I had one too many. Okay. Your portfolio also includes defense, which is very much a hot topic right now. How do you see Luxembourg's role in evolving with NATO and within the European Union in the coming years?
Well, I think we need to step it up as Europe. We have been dependent for our security on the US. Since the post-war period, and this time is over. We cannot expect 300-something million Americans to take care of the security of Europeans, and Europe goes beyond the EU. 600 million Europeans. This time is definitely over. So if we NATO is the bedrock of our security, and if we want NATO to stay transatlantic, it needs to become more European, and that's exactly what we, as NATO allies, European NATO allies, but also as Luxembourg, that's what we've been working on very actively for the past 2 years, and we have stepped it up tremendously in the past 2 years. I would say 2 years ago, nobody could imagine that we would go to 1% of GDP in terms of investment into our defense. Last year, we stepped it up to 2%. This is what we are investing in our security also this year at the latest NATO summit in The Hague. Allies agreed that by 2035, we would all be investing 5% into to our defense. I think nobody, certainly not, are percentage fetishist, because what does that mean? What we need is concrete capabilities to defend ourselves, collectively, nationally, but mainly collectively, and that's why we need to step it up. But the point here is that we want peace, and we need to invest in our defense to guarantee peace via deterrence. If you are weak, you invite yourself to be attacked. You have to show strength. Nobody can do this alone. We need to do it collectively. And Luxembourg is doing its part in terms of investment into capabilities, but also in terms of contributing. We have a small army, but we are contributing also with troops, boots on the ground at the eastern flank. That's where the enemy, the menace, is coming from for Europe. But more generally, I think since the beginning of the war, we are now in the 5th year of war, Russia's attack on Ukraine. The world has changed in Europe. We have war again in Europe, but we are also seeing, I would say, on the southern flank with the war in Iran, that the capabilities that we need and that we don't have today is integrated air and missile defense, is drone capabilities, and these are the lessons of war, be it in Ukraine, be it in Iran. These are capabilities that we need to invest in, not to start a war, but to defend ourselves.
Wonderful. Perhaps you could elaborate a bit on how Luxembourg is prioritizing, or what Luxembourg is prioritizing in terms of meeting NATO targets, and specifically what focus areas will be, used for investment. You mentioned drone capabilities, for example, so perhaps we can discuss this a little bit more.
Sure. So I think what happens in a cycle of every 4 years, a political analysis is made within NATO. What are the threats, and how are we together as NATO allies going to organize ourselves to deal with these threats? So military experts put military capabilities, as a result of the analysis, put military capabilities that are then divided between NATO allies. So each country is allocated capabilities that they need to invest in. Luxembourg is one of 32 allies, so some of the capabilities that we need to procure for ourselves, which we have no experience in today, is what I mentioned earlier, integrated air and missile defense. We have no such systems today. Our closest ally, Belgium, geographically, also doesn't have this kind of a system today. So these are huge investments, and not only in terms of procuring these capabilities, but you need to also have people to run them. You can't just buy these machines and either send them to the front or have them stationed near critical infrastructure, which, for example, would be Luxembourg Airport. You also need to have the human resources to operate them. We don't have that today. So this is not something you can do very quickly. It takes a lot of time. We are now analyzing which partners we can do this with, and then do massive recruitments, basically with all the capabilities that we will need to have in the next 10 years. It almost means doubling also our army in Luxembourg. So you can see the challenge that we are confronted with. But I think that is the main capabilities that we will have to invest in. Another one, I think it's also interesting for society to know, is a deployable military hospital that we will do together with Belgium. Buying infrastructure for a military hospital is not so complicated. Again, what is complicated is having people that would be ready to deploy in times of need if we are in a war situation. It is not necessarily in Luxembourg where we will need this kind of capability. It's closer to the front where the war is. So we also need people from the medical sector that will be able to deploy. They need to be recruited, and they need to be ready, and we need to organize that starting now. Yes, drones are also capabilities that we will have to invest in. We have drones today. We just finished a mission in Kosovo, for example, where Luxembourg was actually leading a Benelux mission with drone capabilities in Kosovo. So you see that the Luxembourg army, despite being small and coming from yeah, rather. Yes, less exposed to leadership positions. Let's put it that way. We are taking on these responsibilities today, which we are also very proud of. But we will have to invest in the future also in armed drone capabilities, which we don't have today. But again, I want to emphasize that these investments for my country are extremely important because we are a solidary NATO ally. But the objective here, again, is to be able to defend ourselves collectively, and to provide for peace in Europe. That's what we want, and that's why these investments are important. I get criticized on social media for being some kind of a war minister and promoting, heavy investments into war capabilities. But the point is to fight for peace. And that is not in an aggressive way, but in a defensive way. But for that, we need capabilities, and we need a European industry also that can keep up with providing what we need to invest in.
Yeah. Well, it's good that your title's still Ministry of Defense and not Minister of War.
Yeah. As long as I have something to say about this, it's going to stay that way.
We come into our final question, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. In an increasingly uncertain world, is there something in particular that you see as a cause for hope and optimism?
That's a good question. No, I think we have to stay positive. When we wake up every day to very negative news, be it on the gender equality or LGBTIQ plus rights, where we mentioned earlier the backlash that we see across the world, also in Europe, be it with the bad news that we see with wars. Very close also to home. And we are living in an extremely volatile and, I would say, dangerous world. And the more we as a society can also promote the values that are important for us, protect the institutions that will save our democracies, stand up and speak out about territorial integrity, international law, all of these things that we have taken for granted for years, but that we see how fragile it is. So for me, I get the strength to stay positive, also out of meetings like this, where you see lots of women, but also many men coming out to discuss these topics. But we live in a very fragile and unstable world. So I think those who share values need to stick together and to speak out. Yes. I think it's important to speak out.
Yes. And taking a quote from Sweet Honey in the Rock, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's won. So that's okay. So we will open it up for Q&A. So we do still have some coming in line, but again, are there any in the room? Yep, in the center here.
I'm really glad that you mentioned about just being guided by your principles and by what we believe in. And it seems to me that everything we're talking about today, whether it's gender, whether it's defence, it is talking about creating a better world. And you're talking about defending and speaking out against what we believe is wrong. And it was wonderful that Luxembourg and Europe came to the defence of the Ukraine just over 4 years ago. But I'm wondering why Europe and Luxembourg still have a very strong economic policy with Israel, who are also violating international law. So what guides Europe's policy and things like that? Are we not guided by equity, diversity and inclusion? Because if we are guided by those principles, everybody in our world counts, not just the people who bring us economic value. Everybody should count. So, help me to understand why Europe have not made a stance in Palestine and as far as I'm concerned, the war that is happening in Israel.
I think one of the big problems that we face is that Europe, the EU, does not have a single, we have a high representative for external affairs, but we don't speak with one voice. And not speaking with one voice makes us have very little voice, and that is the problem. We must stand up for human rights, we must stand up for international law, but we are not capable of doing that neither in Ukraine. We have seen different European EU countries blocking aid to Ukraine for years, where we've had to find different ways of supporting Ukraine because one or two countries have refused. And it's a little bit the same with the situation that you describe in Israel, Palestine. We are making ourselves extremely small by not speaking with one voice, and I am extremely sorry about that, because we are missing huge opportunities here, indeed, like you said, to stand up for and engage in all sorts of economic and political activities for a better world. And if we did speak with one voice, we would actually make a difference, which we are not doing today, unfortunately.
Hello, Madam Minister. Thank you very much for supporting Ukraine. First of all, because I'm Ukrainian myself, and the support Luxembourg has been providing for all the years is very invaluable for us. My question is the following. I was wondering, like, when the world started calling the world wars, the world, in fact. So if you're talking about the First World War, the first mention that it was of the world scale was in 1914. And the Second World War started being called in 1939, right after the invasion of Germans of Poland. Taking into account that there has been so many military conflicts around the world, so many unjust invasions, and taking into account that nowadays all the military actions are to take place in hybrid forms, like technologies, disinformation, etc., do you think that the Third World War is already on?
I would not, a very interesting question, thank you. I would officially not like to sit here and declare that we are now in World War III, but we are at war. As you said, hybrid warfare has been going on for a while, so we are at war, yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Shabna.
Maybe I can just say it like this so you can hear me.
The people at the back can't hear you, so.
Here comes Mary Lou.
Yes, Mary Lou, thank you. Good evening to everyone, and thank you, Minister Backes. So your remit is not just one, being defense, but I will start with the gender topic. I think we all around the world, we all use that term DEI for many years now. And across the world, different countries, companies and so forth, they try to act on it. To me, it has become just a cliche and a term rather than really seeing the differences. Is there measurement under your direction to actually see the results, particularly within the companies, that this has been effective? What the companies, perhaps they have the departments, wonderful to see that BGL has it. But I know, for instance, in the US, many of the companies, they figured that it just became just another term, another cliche, so then they are getting away from it. But real concrete actions and then measurements. So has there been any reports coming out yearly and and making sure that it has been effective. That's the first part. Then we come to defense part.
So I think this falls also within responsibilities of the companies, and when you have leadership that actually is convinced that this is something that is in the interest also of the company, that's when you will see change. We have, for example, an observatory for gender equality that was established a few years ago by the ministry, where in different domains, including in the economic sector, we are analyzing the statistics. So I think this is extremely important. I have passed a law to make the Observatory for Gender Equality official and have it have a legal basis, because I am convinced that we can only make good decisions when we can make evidence-based decisions. And this is one part of it. So I think this data is fundamental of continuously trying to improve the situation. But in the end, yes, we have laws in place for equal pay. We have European directives that will also help. For example, we mentioned it earlier with transparency, which will make an impact, I am sure. And this will not be easy once this has been then transposed into law also in Luxembourg. This will not be easy for many companies, because they will have to question their system and whether it is really promoting the gender equality that they may or may not, aspire to. But in the end, it's the companies that are responsible, well, to live up to the laws that will be in place, and to do and to make the necessary changes in the companies. We cannot, or difficult for us as government to police that unless there is a legal basis. So we can only hope that the leadership of the companies actually thinks this is important enough to make sure that improvements are done.
Very good. Thank you very much. May I ask the second part question? Do we have time?
Yeah, we have time maybe for this, and then one more question. So if yours is on the screen, we might not get around to it. So put your hand up at the end if you want your last question.
I just wanted to say, I think equal pay is one thing, but I think what we are still lacking today very often is also using inclusive language, whether it's officially, whether it's in companies. This is not happening. Of course, in English, this is easier. You have less the problem with inclusive language for the English language, but in Luxembourgish, in German, in French, this makes a difference whether you're communicating with 50% of the population and excluding the other 50% of the population. In French, continuously saying, well, this is the French grammar. If you have a room full, say this room, how many people fit in here? 500 women. It will be elles ont parlé d'un sujet. So if you have one man joining 500 women in the room, it turns into ils. Ils ont parlé de. So this is the French grammar. But you see how deeply founded, these inequalities in a way are. We still see today panels. Well, today we have a women panel here, but we still see manels, and people think this is absolutely normal.
Panels. I gotta use that one.
I refuse to participate on panels where I'm the only woman. I will not have my collaborators who are invited as experts participate on panels of only men. And I have stopped, been doing that for years now. And if all the men stopped participating on panels, they wouldn't exist either.
Wait,
Well said.
Wait, diversity, I do have a question though, because governments work with corporations in different facets, right? So For example, in the U.S., when the civil rights movement came through and when they wanted to push through diversity, many banks. I used to work at J.P. Morgan, and they actually were allowed to have membership in, say, country clubs because that's where they did business, and it was tax exempt. So one of the things to enforce civil rights, the government said, okay, if the country club has an exclusion policy, and just for the record, exclusion policy meant no blacks, no Jews, no Asians, right? So if the country club had an exclusion policy, the government wouldn't give a tax benefit for there. Any restaurants or any services that these companies use, that the government said, no, we don't give you a tax benefit if they have these policies. So can Luxembourg use legislative force to kind of enforce diversity in that respect?
I think enforcing diversity is extremely difficult. For gender equality, in politics, for example, for elections, you do have quotas, so lists need to have a certain percentage of women on the list or the underrepresented sex. But laws enforcing diversity are not, in that sense, are not foreseen. Okay. But, for example, also in sports, which does not fall under my responsibility, when we do see that some sports clubs are, not living up to certain standards. For example, the Ministry for Sports does have the power to, are we going to give a subvention? You say an allocation to this to the sports club or not, if certain principles are not fulfilled. These are examples where I think a difference can be made.
Okay, perfect. Shabnam, you had a question.
Yes. Wait, the microphone, please.
So the people in the back can hear as well.
So coming back to the defense topic, where President Zelensky had already discussed regarding the drones. You were just talking about drones also. And the hostile country, currently the regime of Iran, the Islamic Republic, providing the drones to Russia. The pieces of those drones that have been made on European soil, would the defense, Luxembourg defense, would that be part of the activities of the defense to look into the companies that are actually producing and providing these pieces, the technical pieces, to the hostile country? Would that be part of the defense of not allowing any of the companies here on European soil, also, of course, in your direction, for Luxembourg to make and provide these pieces of drones to be made and supplied to Russia via Iran?
So there will be no companies producing drones in Luxembourg where they would get an export license to provide them to Iran or Russia. This would not be happening. So we have one or the other company producing drones in Luxembourg. Not armed, but they can be armed, but not yet being produced in Luxembourg. But we are providing also Ukraine with such capabilities. But of course, there will be no provision of any capabilities to hostile states.
Great to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. So we might have time for one last question. So think about that. And in the meantime, we would love to get your feedback. So we'll be putting a QR code on the screen as well, where you can submit feedback in a brief survey. But yes, we'd love to take one last question. Okay, perfect.
Hello, good evening. Thank you very much, Minister Backes, for being here today. And my question, I would like to come back to Luxembourg and ask a question that links equality and education in Luxembourg, in our schools. I know it's mainly a school, probably a question for the Ministry of Education, but how does in your capacity as Minister of Equality and Diversity, how do you work together with the Ministry of Education to make sure that our education system here in Luxembourg is for everybody, all the children? How does that work? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, indeed, that would be a good question for the Ministry for Education. But I think we have an education system in Luxembourg that does try to provide for the very diverse community and international, multinational communities that we have in Luxembourg. You have the Luxembourg education system, which is also moving from a more Germanic base to also open up for more French-speaking communities. Many international schools, also national, international schools, compared to the international schools that have been created that are in Luxembourg since many years. So we have more international schools that have been put in place over the past years to provide and to cater to the big international community that we have in Luxembourg and that we are very, very proud of and that we want to also provide the best services for. For gender equality, we have a new national action plan for gender equality, which has been coordinated by my ministry. But many ministries have their parts to fulfill for this national action plan, including the Ministry for Education. We try to work together with them, but we also have, as Ministry for Gender Equality and Diversity, many actions that we do together with schools to support them and to also expose kids to the issues that are very important, including zero tolerance for violence, promoting the ideas that are important in terms of gender equality, in terms of diversity, in terms of respect of differences between people, in terms of LGBTIQ plus rights. So we do a lot of work also with schools. But that remains a big challenge as our communities also grow, as they expand to cater to all the different needs of the population and of the international community here in Luxembourg. I think we're doing okay, but there's still, I think, some improvements that can be done. But for that, we are in touch, of course, with the Ministry for Education.
Excellent. So that was the end of the questions, and thank you to everyone, if you've already done it, for sharing your feedback. Also, be sure to follow us out on social media, and you can listen to us at Let's Hear It podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, and all of these, where we will also be sharing the audio, possibly also video recording, based on my editing skills, of this evening's conversation. LaTasha?
Yes, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Minister Backes. And we are honored to have you, like I said earlier. And to show our appreciation, we have a token of our appreciation. Jordan, can you come? So we have a young lady from the Luxembourg schools here.
Madame Minister Backes, am Namen von Let's Hear It, an euch alle gut, die heute am Abend hier sind, als es mir ein Ehre, ich das Klangzeichen von unserer Wertschätzung, Erfahrungsrolle und dafür zu überreichen, dass die Gespräche wie das erreicht. Minister Backes, on behalf of Let's Hear It and all of us here tonight, it's an honor to present you with this small token of our appreciation for your leadership and for inspiring conversations just like this one.
So, ladies and gentlemen, As we come to the end of the evening, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've shared together. Tonight has been about conversation, connection, perspective, and I really think that we can all agree it has truly been delivered. A sincere thank you to our wonderful hosts, LaTasha Baker, Jazmin Campbell, for creating and guiding us through such a meaningful space. And of course, our deepest thanks to Minister Backes for her insights, her openness, and for her inspiring leadership. Our thanks
Can I
also
also
go
say
to...
thank you to you.
Yes, thank you, Mary Louise.
I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to LaTasha, to Jazmin, and thank you to all of you for being here tonight. And I think we share in this room many of the same values, so let's stick together and also stand up for it together. Thank you.
Thank you. And another big thanks go to, of course, to BGL for allowing us to be in this space this evening. And if there's a few takeaways for tonight, remember, conversations matter, connections matter, and every voice matters. And the good news is, the conversation doesn't end here. BGL are inviting you all to stay, continue the discussion, make new connections, and connect and share the story with a networking event which will take place at the top of the stairs. So please, stay curious, stay connected, and most importantly, be part of the Let's Make It Happen story, because this is what it's all about. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Baby, how you feeling?